A great presentation doesn't just inform, it inspires. In the modern world, where a talk can be shared with a single click, a presentation is no longer merely an act of informing, it is a moment of inspiration. Yet many presentations today stop at saying it right, without truly connecting it right. What differentiates a good speaker from a great inspirer? This is no longer a matter of presentation skills alone, but a fusion of expressive clarity, emotional intelligence, and humanistic vision. A great presentation is not just heard, it is remembered, felt, and lived. A great talk doesn't end when you stop speaking, it begins when others start thinking. A great presentation is not simply an act of sharing knowledge, it is an awakening of awareness. The audience doesn't just leave with more data in their minds, but with a spark in their hearts. That's the difference between teaching and inspiring. When you teach, you transfer content. When you inspire, you activate what's already within others. An effective presentation isn't measured by how full your slides are, but by how deep your words touch. What do people remember? What do they think afterward? What do they change? That lays beyond PowerPoint, it lives in the speaker's presence. Imagine, you speak not to be heard, but to help others hear themselves more clearly. Every great talk is a mirror, not for the speaker, but for the listener to see themselves in an expanded version. And that is where transformation begins. Interestingly, it's not always when a speaker speaks that inspiration strikes, but when they pause. A powerful presentation is not rich with words, it's rich with silence. Silence is the space where the audience can reflect, where they are not filled, but unfolded. In communication psychology, silence isn't emptiness, it's cognitive space. Inspiration isn't always delivered, often it's invited. That's why the greatest speakers don't speak more, they speak precisely. They don't dominate the room, they invite meaning to emerge. Strategic silence is the rhythm of speech, it shapes pacing, builds anticipation, and allows meaning to echo longer. A great talk doesn't rush, it breathes. And in that breath, depth arrives. Listeners don't remember what you say first, they remember what they feel last. That's why a great presentation isn't just a strong opening, it needs emotional architecture. It's an inner journey the audience takes, from curiosity to empathy to insight, and finally to motivation. This isn't theater, it's psychological mapping. Inspiration doesn't arrive by chance, it's cultivated through sequenced experience. Like a great musical piece, a talk needs crescendo and the stillness that follows so emotion can settle. Great speakers don't just plan content, they sculpt emotional rhythm. They know people don't listen with ears, they listen with consciousness. And it's those emotional arcs that echo far beyond the talk itself, long after the facts fade. An inspiring presentation doesn't rely solely on words, it relies on the images words evoke. Great speakers don't define, they visualize. Instead of saying, "We need collaboration," they say, "Let's row this boat in the same direction." That phrase doesn't just convey a message, it awakens a shared mental picture, a space where listeners imagine and align. This is why metaphors, analogies, and symbols often carry more power than rational commands. Inspirational language doesn't aim to explain, it aims to unlock. Neuroscience shows that image-rich language activates both emotional and motor areas of the brain, meaning audiences don't just understand, they feel. A successful presentation is one where listeners imagine action even before they decide it. The speaker stops, but the talk doesn't end. It truly begins when the audience leaves the room and does something differently. An inspiring presentation doesn't aim for agreement, it aims for action. And here's the mystery. Inspiration doesn't make people think right, it makes them want to act. That's transformation. From cognition gives emotion, gives behavior. The final line of a presentation, therefore, shouldn't be "Thank you for listening, but now it's your turn." This is the principle of transformative communication. The listener must be offered a redefinition of their role. When a talk ends with an open question, a high-energy image, a call to step forward, it becomes a space for the audience to begin their own first step. We often think of presentation as a skill, but look deeper, and it becomes an ethical act. When you take the stage, you influence the mood, thoughts, and even decisions of hundreds. And every form of influence carries responsibility. A speaker can plant hope or sow fear. They can make the audience feel small or feel seen. Therefore, inspiration is not just about good speaking. It's about choosing to affect others as a mindful member of a community. A great talk is where ethics, emotion, and intellect converge. And a truly great speaker isn't the one who gets the loudest applause, but the one who stirs the deepest silence in the minds of their listeners. A presentation is not a place where you tell others something. It's where you help them realize what they've always carried, but never named. Inspiration doesn't come from saying more. It comes from striking precisely. Thus, presenting is not just about conveying, it's about awakening. When you end a talk and the audience is silent, not because they didn't understand, but because they're thinking deeper, feeling more, you've inspired them. A great presentation doesn't end in speech, it begins in the reflection you leave behind. The next time you prepare a talk, don't ask, "What will I say?" Ask instead, "What do I want the audience to feel when I stop speaking?" Start from emotion, you'll find structure. Start from people, you'll find your message. And start from humility, you'll find true inspiration.